There are some really crazy items early on in Elden Ring that you definitely don't want to skip on. They make the game more fun, give you cool new attacks and mechanics, and most important, they make you extremely powerful. And the best part is that you don't have to venture too far to find them out, so let's begin. Coming up to number 1, let's talk about a crazy assassin's dagger that comes with a really powerful blood effect. You can get this pretty much in the starting area by simply heading over down to the riverbed towards the second northern exit of the main lake on this side of the map. Now you will get ambushed in this location, but after a few seconds you will also get some help from a special summon, and with a bit of careful positioning and some damage you can take down that target and also acquire the really awesome dagger called the Reduvia. Now the weapon scales with strength and dexterity, but you should also know that it requires a 13-point distribution into arcane to make full use of it, which means that as a bandit you can immediately use it right from the very beginning, making it the perfect starting weapon. Now the dagger comes with a blood loss build-up skill by default, which is what makes it so crazy OP. Just a few hits with it will cause huge blood loss for enemies, which translates into massive chunks of their HP completely disappearing. You can also cast that ability from pretty far away, which is quite handy, and you can also make up that build-up work from further away too. I personally really enjoy this as a bandit because you can dual wield this with the knife that you start with at the beginning of the game, so you can constantly stagger enemies and interrupt them while also taking huge chunks of their HP away. Now moving on to number 2, let's talk about the Assassin's Crimson Dagger. And don't get fooled by the name, it's not really a dagger but actually a talisman. A one that heals you on crit, so it's definitely useful on pretty much any melee class. You get this from the death-touched catacombs on the road north of Limgrave that you can pretty much follow after reaching the Ashes of War vendor that we discussed about in the last video, pretty much on this side of the map. It's a small sized dungeon and you have to open up the gate leading to the boss room, but on your way towards that you kind of have to fight a number of skeleton enemies, so definitely be careful with that. But the talisman is definitely useful because it gives you about 80 to 85 HP heal up whenever you perform critical hits. Now crits are basically the assassination like stabs that you can perform against targets either when sneaking or getting behind them, or simply when you stagger them and then follow up with a quick stab. And of course you will know when the heal triggers because there's going to be a cool red siphon effect that will kind of go into your character and you will know that you are getting that heal. Now this will be of a huge help against most of the fights in the game, especially if you're playing as a melee character. If you don't have enough flasks and want to just heal up, you can always go behind enemies and ambush them because stealth is so easy in Elden Ring. Or better yet, if you're really great at combat, you can stagger them, follow up with a stab, and also get a really awesome HP up when you do this. This brings us to number 3, and this is for spellcasters out there. There's a really strong staff and a really awesome free gravity spell that you can get quite early on in the game. You will find the Meteorite Staff and that spell in the swamp of Caelid, which is a bit further away from the starting zone, that's true, but it's quite easy to bypass since most of the enemies over there are quite simplistic, or at least don't chase you for too much. Now you will want to head over all the way to the swamp until you see these ruins laying around right here, and specifically this one that's a bit more protected by more enemies. You can obviously take them down, they aren't that difficult, and what you want to do after that is to head over and check the room inside of this ruins tower. And here you will find a corpse on the edge of window, simply grab it and you're going to get the really awesome Meteorite Staff right away. What makes this weapon so amazing, especially for mages, is that it scales up insanely well with intelligence, which is perfectly for a spellcaster like me. Now of course there is an intellect requirement, but if you play as a mage, obviously you will meet that anyway. What's even more important here is that it gives you a passive boost to gravity sorcery. And guess what? You're in luck because just a few feet away from this area you can find a really strong gravity spell for free. So head over just a bit onto the eastern side of the same ruin until you see what's likely the remains of a church. Ignore all of the enemies and just make your way in the basement underground and open up the door. There you will find a chest containing the rock sling, which is the free ability I was talking about. Oh, and also within the same region there's another bunch of ruins, one of which will give access to the full traveler's outfit right here as well, so pretty close to one another. Now the combo with the staff and the rocks is perfect. You deal a lot of damage, it doesn't cost that much mana per cast compared to the amount of damage that you deal, and and you also get to throw 3 boulders that have a great reach and also some auto tracking baked into them. The only slight downside is that it takes a fraction of a second to cast this spell, so you might want to stay a bit back or at least be careful about your positioning. Oh, and did I say that it's amazing at AoE? Because it definitely is. As I've said, just be careful about where you stand. Moving on to number 4, let's talk about a really awesome Ashes of War called Blood Loss. Now head over to Fort Height following the road south from the previous 3rd Church of America, and there are some enemies in the fort right here, but you can go ahead and easily clear them out, and you will want to do so because the upcoming enemy mini boss will pretty much two-shot you if you're not being careful. So make sure you do that and then head over to the top of the castle where you will encounter this knight that seems similar to every other knight out there, with the exception that it also uses a bloody slash, and this is the ability that it can also drop if you defeat it, but obviously if you get touched by it, it will build up a massive blood loss, which can almost always mean instant one-hit kill for you. Now the Blood Ash of War has a wider reach and deals way more damage once you get it than the one from the Reduvia Dagger. It also comes at a cost though, which means sacrificing a portion of your HP with each attack, but the damage on it is very high and oftentimes means one-shotting most enemies, sometimes even multiple at the same time. As far as the HP sacrifice part though, I'll talk about a great unlock in just a little bit that you can use to kind of bypass some of the problems that this Ash of War has. Which brings us to number 5, and that's going to be about crafting your own flasks and how it works, how to get them, and how they can provide some of the best benefits in the game. Now you will find this flask on the 3rd Church of America right here northeast of the starting area. From the waypoint ruins we talked about before, simply take the road onto the right side until you reach the church, so it shouldn't be too difficult to reach that area. Once you're here, you will find the resting place and of course the flask sitting near the wall, so make sure you grab it. And once you do so, also make sure you grab the sacred tear nearby, as this is going to be important for a later reason. But the Flask of Wondrous Physic opens the potion mixing ability, which you can do at any site of grace, where you can pretty much mix different tiers with different effects, like instantly restoring half of your HP, heal over time, damage reduction, and even stamina and so on. Now the Crimson Crystal tier is the one that you already got when you got the flask from that church, but after that part you will also want to head over to the south part of the map towards a place called the Weeping Peninsula by simply following the main road over there, and head over to the center part right here with the big tree in the middle. Here is where you will encounter the Earth Tree avatar, and it should not be too difficult to just defeat it, but once you have done so, you get 2 more crystal tiers to finalize those potions and finally mix things up. The best early on combo here that I recommend is the tier you got from the church with the burst version from the boss you just defeated. It gives you an extra HP up as well as a heal over time, which doesn't go away even when you're already at full HP. So you can pop it, go against a boss, and if you remain without any flasks, you're still going to get that heal over time, though it's probably not gonna be that big. Still quite good, for example, to mitigate some of the blood loss from some of the other abilities that you might be using, or simply to survive for a lot longer. Now as far as the sacred tiers go, these are also extremely important, and between the one that you got from the previous church, there's gonna be 3 close to one another locations in the same Weeping Peninsula right here in these churches locations. So there's gonna be one in the Church of Pilgrimage on the north side of the peninsula, there's another one south in it, and the third one close to the center that you will want to visit. And definitely make sure you do so, because you can then go ahead and increase how much your potions will regen, be it in HP or any other secondary attribute. You definitely don't want to be in the middle of the game having a huge HP bar and your flasks barely even like healing anything. So this is something that I definitely suggest. And this brings us of course to the final item on the list, the Grafted Blade Greatsword, the most badass weapon in my opinion in the early stages of the game. It's pretty much a sword made out of swords, so you can let your enemies know who's the real boss. Now you get it from the boss just outside of the south side of the Castle Morn in the same Weeping Peninsula. Simply head over right here onto this part of the map, and once you're there, from the side of the wall, just jump down into the water area where the entrance for the boss room is. I found the encounter to be quite easy. Just pop the wolves, go ham in with the damage, and have fun being overpowered powered after getting this really awesome sword. Now obviously the sword requires a heavy point investment into strength, so it's something that you will want to aim for with a strength starting class, like for example the hero, but yeah, maybe vagabond or other classes can work too. The weapon is so freaking awesome, you can literally use it as a shield of sorts. It's definitely going to block quite a bit of incoming damage, and it looks some of the most badass I've seen in Elden Ring so far. So yeah, this is it. Totally let me know down below in the comments which one of these weapons you found so far, or if there's any others that I have skipped upon. As always, if you enjoyed this video, a like on it would be super appreciated, and if you really enjoyed it and want to support the channel furthermore, you can go ahead and like just subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 400k subs by the end of 2022, and it would not be possible without your help.